Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Thank you very much. May I request everybody to, if you can just keep yourself on mute. And if you have any questions, I request you to just write the question into the Q&A or into the chat, and I'll take the questions from there. Okay, let's start now. It's 6 p.m. already. So thank you very much for joining me. My name is Kaisardi, and I'm the Director of Continuing Professional Development here at Registered Professional Accountants of Canada. So this is the first session of the CPD Marathon. And today's session, we're going to discuss how to use Microsoft Excel for to connect, to collect, and clean your data. And within Microsoft Excel, the utility or the module we will use, that's called Power Query. I have to just keep on switching between the screens of my PowerPoint slide. At the same time, I have to solve quite a few, I have to show you quite a few examples over there as well. So I would be requesting, let me see who can request. Oh yeah, Mr. Errol, I can see you. So thank you very much for joining me. It's a matter of great pleasure for me that you are there with us. So just one request to you, in case while I'm talking, if I'm talking something different and the screen what you see is something different, just point it out to me so that I can switch back and forth between the screens. So that's the only favor I need from you. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's start now. We're going to discuss how to connect to various data sources, how to collect the data, and how to clean your data so that it can be used for various analysis and reporting purposes. Okay. Now, being an accountant or an analyst, in this modern world, we are facing quite a few challenges. And one of the most important challenges that we are facing is how do we connect the data sources, how we collect data from these scattered sources, and how do we clean that information so that we can make use of that information for our reports or for analysis. Once this challenge is done, the next problem what we face is the data that you have cleaned. How do you arrange this information? How do you examine it? How do you analyze this information? It's not the time now when somebody sitting into ID department will collect data from various sources, will clean the information, and will hand it over to you saying, okay, sir, now you can start working on it. No more. That facility gone. All over the world, dependency on IT support team, it has reduced drastically. Now, being the process owner, you are the person who has to collect information. You are the person who has to clean it, examine it, and you are the person who has to analyze the information. So the first challenge is how do you get connected to the sources? Second challenge is how do you examine that information? And the third most important challenge is that how do you communicate, convince, and carry on onto the information? It's not happening anymore that if you are my manager, I'll analyze information, I'll prepare certain analyses and reports, and then I'll hand it over that information to you saying, okay, sir, now you can go into the meeting and present that information to the audience. No, not at all. Now, managers, they are saying, okay, you have to go with me. I'll be sitting into the same meeting, but you are the one who has to present that information. So like others, if I have any concern, if I have any question, I'll be asking question just like anybody else sitting into the meeting. So these are three most important challenges that our accountants and analysts, they are facing right today. Now, these challenges, to meet these challenges, you definitely need some kind of tools. I mean, you just cannot have the calculator right in front of you, take pen and paper and start collecting or writing the information, analyzing the information, at the same time communicating information right onto the phone call. No, it's not happening. You need some kind of specialized skills, specialized software, specialized tools to meet all these challenges. Now, so the first challenge is concerned. We need to collect and connect to the information. The tool available right now, which we are going to discuss today, is called Power Query. I'm not sure how many of you have already heard about this or already used it, or might be you're trying to use it. But this tool is available within Microsoft Excel. You will experience this problem that whenever you talk to somebody saying, do you know Excel? 99.9% people, they will claim, yes, I'm very good in Excel. But when it comes to these specialized tools, a vast majority probably, they never heard about this. They never used these tools. But believe me or not, these tools really make your life easy. And I'm going to prove it today. So that's the first tool that we are going to use. My tomorrow's session will be about how do you arrange, examine, and analyze information. And for this, what tool you will use, that's called Power Pivot. Once again, this tool is available within Microsoft Excel. You don't need to subscribe for anything. You don't need to buy any further licensing. Both these things are available within the same, our best friend, Microsoft Excel. For the third, communicate and carry on convincing. Two beautiful tools available once again within Microsoft Excel called Power Map and Power View. All these tools, they are interdependent on each other. The output of Microsoft Power Query, it becomes the raw material for Microsoft Power Pivot. And something produced by Microsoft Power Pivot, it becomes the raw material for the Power Map and the Power View. All these are interlinked. Now, what do we achieve by using these tools? About Microsoft Excel, one thing keep in mind now, Microsoft Excel is no more analytical tool. It became now a business intelligence tool. So by using Microsoft Power Query to collect the information, using Power Pivot to arrange and examine the information, and using Power Map and Power View to communicate and to convince to your audience that what you are saying, here is the proof of that. And you are giving them suggestions that if you follow the suggestion, this is what is going to happen. If you don't follow the suggestion, so these are the outcomes or these are the consequences. All these tools collectively, they are basically part of a suite, and that suite is called business intelligence. What is business intelligence? Business intelligence basically it refers to technologies, applications, and practices. And the purpose of these things is that you want to collect information, you want to integrate with various tools, with various systems, and then you need to present this information to your end user. That end user can be your manager, your colleagues, your client. It can be anybody. But ultimate purpose of the business intelligence is what that you want to support better business decision making. These are the most important challenges that our accountants and analysts they are facing now. The job of accountant and analyst, it has changed drastically. It's absolutely a new world now. I don't think that we are living in that time when you can just take one application of bookkeeping. As and when you get the information from your client and put the information into that accounting software, generate your financial statement at any time period, present that information or financial statement to your client, and you are done. No. Now, even the clients, their requirements are very dynamic type of requirements. Okay. So in this marathon series, what we're going to do is we are going to discuss these two tools. This is what I'm going to discuss today. This will be my topic for tomorrow. And this will be sometime later on, let's say in March or April, we'll conduct some seminar related to how do you use various tools to communicate, convince, and carry on about the information. So let's talk about now what is Power Query, what exactly it is, what it is used for, what are the benefits of it. Well, Microsoft Power Query is basically an ETL tool. ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. We extract data from a number of resources, a number of sources. And your data can be in CSV format, in text format, in Excel, database, folders. It's onto the webs, in the servers, marketplace. It's onto Google. It's onto your Facebook. It's coming from YouTube. Data is everywhere. Even your phone, in fact, is carrying quite a bit of amount of data that on and off you are using to make certain type of business decisions. So the first function of Microsoft Power Query is that you will extract data from any sources. Your data can come from Excel, your data can come from SAP server, your data can come from web, from Facebook, and so many other things. So for me, this Microsoft Power Query is just like a data machine. Its purpose is extract the data from all these dynamic and scattered sources. Earlier, your source was only one specific machine, one specific tool, one specific application, or one specific, let's say, person who will give information to you in ready-made format. Okay. All right. I got a question here that not sure where to find in Power Query. I'm going to explain all this stuff in few minutes, that in Excel, where you can find all this stuff. You'll not find exact word of Power Query, but I explain these things in few minutes. Stay with me, please. Thank you. Okay. So for me, this Microsoft Power Query, in fact, is a data machine. And its purpose is connect to various scattered sources, bring that data into Power Query, process this data. This processing of data, we give it a technical name, calling it as transformation. Now, when it comes to the transformation, this means the data will be in some kind of state. That state may be acceptable for you. If that is the case, well, you are the luckiest person on this planet. If the data you are getting, it's into that form that you can straightforward go ahead and use it, believe me or not, you are the luckiest person. But this doesn't happen in every case, and this doesn't happen every time. For example, when you want, if your client comes to you and saying, okay, all type of data that you need from our site, it's available on our website. Just go ahead, grab it from there. Well, this is one of the biggest challenges you will face, right? Okay, so it's a data machine. Grab the data from various sources, and then transform this information. Into the transformation now, what you need to do is you need to do the data cleaning. You need to do some kind of integration. You need to use kind of formulas like lookups and index and match and sum ifs and some other kind of formulas. We will see today quite a few things that how the transformation can be done onto some data sources. And finally, once the data is extracted, it is transformed. Now you are ready. Now you're in a position that you can load this information to some platform where you can use this information to prepare certain kind of analysis, reports, or presentation, or whatever the case may be. Where you can load this information, you can load it back to Excel. You can load it to Power Pivot Data Model. We will see tomorrow. This will be our one of the important topics we're going to cover. You can load it to some business intelligence platform, which can be Tableau, which can be Microsoft Power BI. It can be business intelligence, other software, so many other things are there. Or you can do one more thing. You just don't want to load this information anywhere. I will show you this one today, that you just create a connection to your data. If somebody says that my data is onto my website, you just create a connection between your file and to your and to the website of the client. So what's the benefit of that? As and when the information is updated onto the website from your file into the Excel, you just click one button, which is a refresh button. The whole process will be automatically triggered, and it will give you a fresh copy of the information. This is called the Power Query. And we're going to learn now the purpose of this session, rather these 4 sessions that I'm going to conduct. 5th one, in fact, is just a matter of reading material that I'll provide to all of you. So in these 4 sessions, my ultimate purpose would be that right from tomorrow morning, when you come back to your seat, sitting into your office, you start thinking that what I learned yesterday, I should start using it right today. So it's going to be quite a hands-on type of training session. Okay, a couple of more things about the Power Query I'll tell you. The Power Query is just like a macro recorder. I'm sure most of you have experience of recording macros in Excel. And what exactly you do in Excel is you just click one button saying, okay, record the macro. So what macro recorder is doing, it just follow your footstep that here you click, here you copy the information, here you paste the information, you use this formula over here, you created some over here. So all these steps at the back end, Visual Basic for application, it keep on recording automatically. And that becomes your recorded macro. Microsoft Power Query is exactly doing the same thing. You don't need to write any formulas. You don't need to learn any language. You don't need to write any kind of function. It's all just a matter of click, drag, and drop, and that's it. It's so beautiful product and so powerful that data cleaning, data extraction, and data loading to the final platform, it's just a matter of 1, 2, 3 now. All you need to do is you just need to define your query once only, and next every time, the only thing you need to do is just refresh. And that refresh will run the query and give you most updated information. Okay, let's go ahead now. I think it's enough as far as theoretical part of Power Query is concerned. Let's go ahead now and do some examples now. And my first example that I'm going to do now is it's how do you import data from websites, which I have noticed many our accountants and analysts, they find it very challenging. All they do is that they go to the specific website, they copy the information from there and paste into Excel, and then eventually what happens? What they see onto the website, where the wanted, unwanted characters, symbols, pictures, everything get copied from there. And when you paste the information into Excel or any other platform, so the whole mess, it just goes into that platform where you have pasted the information. And finally, they find themselves, oh, now it will take me ages to clean this data. I'll show you an example in a minute. But let me give you a little bit more information that when you want to import data or need to import data from a website, you need to pay a little bit attention to that in what form data would be available on any website. There are 3 possibilities that data can be available on any website. You'll find some web pages where the data is nicely formatted, tabular form data is there. You'll find the columns are there, you'll find the rows are there. So all you need to do is just grab that specific table and bring into to Microsoft Excel. But there are certain companies, rather there are certain other sources, you will not find data in a proper tabular form. What they have done is they have hosted the complete file over there. And most of the time, the type of file you find there, that will be a TXT file, text file. So they find, okay, it's saving time for them when they just want to publish TXT file onto their website, because they're the designers or the webmaster, they don't have to do any kind of formatting onto the data. They just take the file, just leave it onto the web page, and that's it. They are done. But this type of file, sometimes it becomes a little bit difficult when you import the information into Excel. But don't worry, I'm going to give you knowledge how you can handle with this. And the third way of information that you can find on any website, that is you'll find there will be no tables onto the web pages. Well, what you need to do is you need to write some HTML code to grab the data from there. And this is, in fact, is not our part. If you find any of the website that contains data that need to be taken with the help of HTML code, straightforward, tell to your client or to your manager or to your subordinates, whoever it is, right? I'm sorry. Since I'm not a programmer, I don't know how to get this data. So you need to get help of some IT professional. But as for the first 2 types are concerned, the first 2 types of sources are concerned, that's pretty easy. Let me do one thing now. I'm going to open a file for you, and I'll show you, first of all, my source. And then I'll show you if I just get that data by means of just copy paste, then what happens? On the contrary, when we try to import the data with the help of Microsoft Power Query, then see how life will be easy. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a different scheme. So just stay with me. Let me open my file and I will show you that file in a second. So that file would be over here. Right, so I'm going to share a new screen. Okay. I'm sure you can see my Microsoft Excel screen. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Errol, you are basically on mute, but that's okay. In case you find that there is a mismatch between what I'm saying and what I'm showing here on the screen, just let me know. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay. So this is now, I'm going to, yep, sure. Another question came that will you be able to access this material? I'm going to send this material, this slide and recording to everybody who's right now here with me into this presentation. All right. So this is now, I have over here a website here. Let me show you. So this is basically is Wikipedia website. And onto this website, they have some data related to countries, dependencies, population, something like this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this source and I'm going to show you, first of all, how this data look like. And then I'll show you when I copy this information and paste into Excel, then what happens. And finally, we will see how we can use Microsoft Power Query to bring this information onto our into Microsoft Excel. So let me show you first of all now how it looked like onto the Wikipedia. All right. So onto Wikipedia now here, there is some text is here. If I just scroll a little bit down, so here is a tabular form data, right? If I just keep on scrolling down, so down here, another table is there. There probably is about the sources or some other information. So there's quite a bit of information is going on over here, right? So there is another source. This another table is over here. Okay. Now, if I need to, let's say, get this data into Microsoft Excel, so I can guarantee that vast majority of us, what they will do is just go to over here, and what they will do is they'll say, okay, I can just go ahead simply. I can select this information right from the beginning all the way until the end of this table. And I can simply copy and paste this information into Microsoft Excel, and I can make use of this one. So probably what we will do is Control C here, and then going into Microsoft Excel. And let me share the screen. Here is my screen of Microsoft Excel. And what they will do is probably Control V over here. And what they will get is this one. Let me adjust this information so that you can have a better view. So I just go to alignment, don't want to wrap text, and no merging of the text. So this is probably what you will get when you copy paste the information. You can see now here how much unwanted information. The first problem here is now, if you want to clean this information, it's going to take you time. You'll find over here some kind of references are there, so you need to remove this reference. At the same time, you'll find here is image is there. You need to remove this image. So if it's a matter of few records only, okay, probably I would say, oh, okay, that's fine, no problem. You can just go ahead and use this method. But if you have hundreds and thousands of rows, which is pretty much easy and normal amount of data, but almost every one of us is dealing nowadays. So this will take you ages to clean up the information. And this is not, in fact, is a desired solution. At the same time, if this information, let's say it continuously been updated onto the website every single day, then I have to go to the same website, grab the data again, bring it to Excel, let's go ahead and clean it. So it's like, look like this will be my early morning chores. That's not going to give me any kind of edge on others. If I'm a professional accountant, I need to prove to my clients that the type of services I'm offering to them, it's a highly professional services. My approach towards the information is a highly professional approach. The tools I'm using is the most modern tools. The techniques I'm using is the most proven techniques. I just can't do copy and paste of the information. This copy and paste of information, well, sorry to say, um, probably an elementary school child can do, maybe better than us. Okay, so how Microsoft Power Query can help? So the earlier question was, where is Microsoft Power Query? Okay, if you're using Microsoft Excel 2010, so just like what you can see on my screen here on top of in Excel menu, so it is a Power Pivot. So there was a separate here in 2010 and 2013 also, sorry. Yeah, 2010, 2013. So here was a separate menu item called Power Query. But starting from 2016 onward, Microsoft have removed that menu item. And that really makes sense why they removed it. Because in 2010 and 2013, with Microsoft Power Query, they had another tab, it's called Data. Well, the Data tab and Microsoft Power Query tab, both were almost doing the same thing. So it doesn't make sense that you have two different tabs for the same menu, for the same type of menu item. So what they did now is, in 2016 onward, they have merged everything of Microsoft Power Query into the Data tab. Okay. Still, into the Data tab, where is Microsoft Power Query? Nobody can see, including myself. I can't see even. I can guarantee vast majority of us have used this Data tab in Excel, but probably from here, this side. Sort, filter, advanced, text to column, data validation, duplicate removal, forecast, what if analysis, grouping, ungroup, all this stuff. But from here to the left side, really probably you have gone. Probably once in a blue moon, you might have tried something from here. So Power Query is actually in this area, this get and transform data. If you go back to my definition of Microsoft Power Query, I said what type of tool it is. This is a tool of extract, transform, and load. So all extract, transform, load functionality, it has been merged into this one block here. And it's called get and transform data. Everything, single thing related to Power Query is over here. Let's see now how Power Query can help us. Now, I was talking about the different types of sources that you can connect or you can get the data from. So where are those sources? If you just click on to get data, so there are quite a few sources available, right? So you can get data from a file, which can be XML, CSV, text, workbook, PDF, and so many other things are there. You can get connected to various types of data databases. You can connect to Azure services. There are certain online services as well available. There are some other sources available as well. And in case the source which you want to connect to it's not available, you can create a blank query. So there are quite a few things available over here. Okay, but what I want to connect, in fact, that is a website, and that website is over here. And I need to get connected to this source and get my information from here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this sheet. Rather, let's leave the sheet so that you can see the difference between the way information is. I brought it over here by means of copy paste, and the way I will bring this information now through the Power Query. Okay. So here is an option available to me that's called get data from web. So you can straightforward go over here, or if you want to get data from get data sources, so you'll find these options are available into this option available into from other source. So from other source, here is get data from the web. So both way, it's the same thing. So I click on to from web. So what it's going to do now is it's going to ask me, okay, give me the URL, the address of that specific web, which I can get connect to, and it can bring you information. So this is a small form where I just need to paste the URL or the link or the link of the web, yeah, and click OK. Now, if you're using this one for the first time, it may ask you, okay, any kind of credentials, just continue as anonymous. Right, now what it started analyzing that whole website and started checking out, okay, where and what kind of information is available. And it took hardly 3 seconds just to analyze the whole website. And now onto the left side, it shows to me that there is a document available. This is the document, and it's in HTML. All right. This is an HTML. If you remember earlier, I showed you that the three ways information can be available onto the website. It's a tabular form, it's a proper file, TXT file is there, or you can get the HTML code from the website and you can bring the code to your own website or to the application and you can grab the data. So let's say there is a document which is in the HTML. In fact, I don't need that one. If I click onto the last table over here, so that information is related to something, this one, which is in fact some sources information is there. This is not what I'm looking for. But if I click onto the second option here, that shows to me the data which I need, in fact. And that data is properly tabulated form, nicely formatted, quite a bit of information there, right? There is no pictures and no other kind of mess available here. All I need to do is just need to work a little bit more onto this information, and I can use this information for analysis or for whatever reason I need it. Now, if you believe that this information is ready-made available to you, no further processing, no further cleaning is required, you can just go ahead down over here into the screen and you can click load. And you can load this information back to Excel or any other platform you want. But in case you need to transform this information, you need to work a little bit more onto this, well, then click onto the transform data. And that's what I'm going to do now. So I click onto transform the data. So earlier somebody asked the question, where is the Power Query? So when I click onto transform the data onto the same Excel sheet, another environment will open, and that environment is called the Power Query environment. Let me check out that I'm sharing the right screen right with you right now. I guess you can see my Power Query screen. Yep. Okay. So yeah, you can see my Power Query screen. All right. So now this is the Power Query here. And in this Power Query, now let me tell you one thing more. This is a different environment. This is a different utility. If I just a little bit reduce the size of my window, you can see at the back, it's Microsoft Excel. That's where our data was earlier that I copy paste the data. And this one is a different environment on top of that. And here it's written at the top is Microsoft Power Query Editor. Okay, now we can just do a little bit cleaning of the information over here. Here, just like onto this this corner here, whatever I will do here now, just like micro recorder, it will keep on adding the steps. It shows to me over here that Microsoft Power Query got a data source. It navigates through the source and it brought the information over here by changing certain data types. What data types it changed? It find that this one, let's say this one, it find it could not understand what exactly is this one. It's 1, 2, 3, but there is a first record which shows rank. So numbers and text, it was mixed over here. So Microsoft Power Query said, sorry, everything over here is text. Okay, so it's almost everything is text over here right now. But what I need to do, in fact, is I could just scroll a little bit to the right over here. And this is the whole thing. Okay, let's do a little bit cleaning into this now. Okay, somebody requested that, is it possible I can show the Power Query once again? Okay, no problem. I'm going to close the screen. I'm going back again to Microsoft Excel, and I will repeat one more time for you. All right, so I just close the screen now. So I discard the information. Now we are in Excel. So what you need to do is go to data. Into the data, right over here is from web. So I click from web. So it's asked me now, give me the website address. So here is the web address and click OK. So when I click OK, it's going to analyze the whole website and find out that there is a document which I don't need. There is a table. That's not the information what I needed. The information I need is the sovereign states and dependencies by population is this information. Since I need to do a little bit cleaning onto this information, I'm going to transform this data. So I click transform the data. So it opens a new environment on Excel. And in that new environment, my whole data is here. Okay. Let's have a little bit cleaning of this information. If you see, the titles of the columns are here, and the same row was repeated down over here as well. So since this information is duplicate, I just need to get rid of this first row. So to get rid of this row, you just can't right click onto the row and say delete it. No, it's not Excel. It's the Power Query environment. So here here the Excel functionality doesn't work here. Power Query has its own environment and it has its own commands, which is pretty straightforward. To get rid of the rows, X number of rows, from top, from bottom, from anywhere, you just need to do one thing. Into the Home tab, you'll find here it's an option called Reduce Rows. All right. And I need to remove rows. When you click Remove Rows, so there are quite a few options there. Do you want to remove rows from the top, from the bottom, or alternate, or what? Quite a few things are there. I wish I had enough time where I can keep teaching this as a Microsoft Power Query for the next at least 2 weeks, daily basis. All right. Anyway, so I just need to remove from the top one row only. So click Remove Top Rows. It will ask you, okay, how many rows you want me to remove? I just need to remove one row only and click OK. All right. So I just want to ensure if we are still in meeting. Yeah, okay. So this is what I was, I'm sorry, now there's technology and especially the internet. You just can't, yes, okay, thank you very much. Right, so now the first row is gone. And system has added a step over here saying that one row or the row was removed from the top. So the information is just fine for me. As far as this one is concerned, if you, let's say you said, oh no, I don't want any kind of ranking. All I need is just these 3 or 4 columns. So you can do one thing. You can just right click on this column title and say, I don't want this column, say column remove, gone. Let's say I don't see the reason why this date should be this way, right? But what happens here is the system could not, the Power Query could not understand that what type of data it is. It says that this one is ABC, text. No, it's not text, it's date. So what you need to do is you just need to click onto this ABC. The whole range of data types would be available to you. And you can convert into date, time, percentage, whole number, currency, and so many other things. I need to convert this one into date. So I can click onto date. All right. Now there is a problem here. It shows me here now, if you look into this small bars right at the top, everything is just fine except in this column. In this column, if it comes red or if the whole column, whole bar is red, this means there are certain errors. And I need to see now here what kind of errors are there. I can just keep scrolling down until I find that there is some kind of error. Okay, I find here is some error. What kind of error is this? If I just click onto this blank space here, so what it will show me, it will show me over here that there is something going on into this into this cell. It says that we could not parse the input provided as the date value. So here the way date has been provided, it cannot be converted into the date. So that's why the error is there. Okay. Is there anywhere else some error is there? Let's keep scrolling down. Nope, there is no other error. So that's the only one which error I have. Okay, let's say I just want to get rid of that error. It's a pretty simple thing. What you can do is you can select the column, going back again to Home tab, remove the rows, and you can click onto Remove Errors. When I click Remove Errors, you will see now that red dot from here, or the red bar, it's gone. Okay, so now everything is just fine. And now finally what I can do is now I can load this information back to Excel. So to load this information back to Excel, I can just simply click onto Home, and rather we are already into Home, and click Close and Load, and Close and Load. Now this information will be back into Excel over here in a new sheet, in a nicely formatted, properly formatted data. So here is what we got now. Now you can imagine that if you have to clean the data this way, how long it will take you. And if you create a query this way, how long it's going to take. And the best thing, this exercise you have to do once only. Next, every single time, all you need to do is, if you look onto my screen, the right side corner here, there is a small button here. And that button is for what? That button is for refresh. I just need to refresh this query. It will go back again to the same website. It will bring the fresh set of information. And that cleaning process, those steps that we defined into the query, it will run everything automatic. We don't need to worry about that. Okay. So this is how you can grab data from various websites and you can bring into here into Microsoft Excel. Okay, one more important thing. I always get this question. Some people, they will say, sorry, we don't want to show data over here. I just want to keep total secrecy of my information. So is there any way that I can do that? Yes, you can do that. And how you can do that? It's very simple. Just right click onto this and click over here, load to. In the load to, instead of saying create a table, just say create connection only. So I just say only the connection and click OK. Now, when I click OK, it will say, I'm going to remove this table. Do you agree with that? Yes, I'm going to agree with that. So it will remove the table and you will not find no information into this file. So just go ahead and click OK. Yes, I agree with this. This table has been removed from here. And now you can look into this corner, what it shows here, that this is a connection only. My data is still there, virtually available in this file, but just nobody can see it. If I close this area also, who knows what data is there? Except if you really know how to use Power Query, you can go to the data tab and you can click onto queries and connection, and that query and connection will be back to you here. And I can still make use of this information for various kinds of analysis and reports. And that's what we are going to discuss tomorrow. Okay, so this was one source that I showed to you. Let me go back and show you a couple of more sources. Okay, so let me go back to my screens, and I'm going to share a new screen now. Once again, okay, so here it is now. So this was how you can connect to. Okay. The questions, I'm going to take a couple of questions now. The question is, after removing the error, how did we get the data back into Excel tab? Just that step? Thanks. Okay. Well, once the error, if you're talking about the error which I removed, well, that error was just removed from the import process. If I just go back and still want the errors also into your sheet over here, I just need to cancel that step. That's it, nothing else. But as for the other types of error, and including this error, in the upcoming examples, you will see this process now. Okay, so this was how to import data from the websites. Okay, let's have another scenario now. Now, my second scenario is a little bit complex type of scenario. And I have noticed this, especially in offices. This happens deliberately and quite frequently. And what it happens? If I need some information from one of my colleagues or some other person who is dealing with the detailed information and preparing some final report, so what the person most of the time, what I've noticed is that the people, what they do is they create the report by means of let's say using the pivot table, and then finally what they do is they just dismantle the pivot table. Rather, what they do is they freeze everything by copy pasting the information, and the final summary they will send to the next person, whoever. If I'm the one, they will send me that final summary. Well, that final summary may not be enough for me to prepare some kind of report. So I need the detailed information. And most of the time, if I need the detailed information, sorry, I will not get that detailed information. I'll be told that, okay, sorry, we don't share the source of the information. Okay, nothing to worry about. I'm going to show you that the information which has been shared with you, you can make use of that. You can dismantle that information and bring into the state where that information was before the summarizing stage. There are two stages of the information. One is the detailed information. From there, you create some kind of summary, or that detailed information just go into the pivot table. It automatically creates the summary. So what we can do is we can just reverse the process. This reversing the process, in fact, is called unpivoting the information. To pivot the sorry to pivot the information, it's pretty easy. But to unpivot the information, it's a bit complex. And I'll show you an example now, and you will see that in what way that file has been prepared. But when I want to use that information for a different kind of report, I need to dismantle that information. So what we're going to learn now is how to transpose and unpivot a complex type of information. Okay, let me show you a file. So just stay with me. Let me open the file first. And here it is. And let me share my screen now. Okay, so I'm going to share Excel screen. But this file I don't need, so I'm going to close this file. And I hope now you can see a new file, which is yeah, this is the file I'm talking about. If you look into this information, now what happens here is a pretty complex type of report is there. You can see here now what kind of things are going on. This month of January, actually, it was written in column C, cell C2. Then this information, it was merged between columns C, D, and E over here. It's merged. Same is true with February, March, and all other months, right? So it's up till the month of June. Okay, that's the first thing. Then what's happened here is, here it's given only the title of the revenue stream. The whole row is blank. And then here is the products, and then the actual budget and the variance and rest of the information. And after every revenue stream, there is a subtotal. Now, if I'm not happy with this report, rather the type of report I need to prepare, the base data will be this, or the base data will be the data which somebody used to prepare this report, right? And if I ask somebody, the person who rather prepared this report, can you please give me that detailed information? I can guarantee in most of the situation, you will be refused. You will not get that information. So whatever reason is, it can be. So this doesn't mean that we should feel disheartened and say, oh my goodness, now what should I do now? Now what I have to do is I have to copy paste this information so that I can make use this data. No. Rather, I take this one as advantage. In fact, it's an advantage for me. What I can do is now I can agree with the custodian of this file, or the person who is responsible to prepare this report. I can say, okay, if you are the one who's preparing this report, just agree with me that next time you will not change the structure of the report, because I'm going to grab this data to prepare some other kind of analysis or reports. And if you change the structure of the report, then my analysis is going to be disturbed. So the first thing I will agree with that person is this: do not change the structure. You should not insert any more column. You can keep adding rows and other stuff. You can keep changing the information, but structure should remain unchanged. Okay. Now, how you can dismantle this one? Let me show you how to do this. First thing, this report basically is a categorized report, right? There are quite a few revenue streams are there, and every single stream has its own block. For example, this is one block, there is another block over here, and so on. So first thing, what we do, I take from cell number A1, goes all the way to the right until I reach to the end of this data range. And just a second, let me make sure. Yeah. And then what I do is I just keep on selecting the data until I reach to the last row with the data is ended. So data is ended over here. Okay. Right. Now, what I want to do is I don't want to touch the structure of the report. I want to keep this report as it is. But at the same time, I want to get this data, dismantle it, and use that dismantled data for some other kind of reports. So I select the whole range of the information. And then what I do is I assign it a name. To assign a name, here is the name box. This is called the name box. And I give it a name over here. Let's say I say my data and enter. Okay. Now this data, this whole report data now, it has a range. If you want to see where is that range, you can just go back to the name box, just click my data. You will see the whole data will be automatically selected. Once this data is selected, go back to data and click on to table or range, this option. When you click on to table and range, the whole data Microsoft Excel will take straight to Power Query. Here it is. The whole data, it will come to Microsoft Power Query. Now here quite a few things. Now you can see over here that the information is pretty much now difficult, in fact, to understand here. First thing, every single column I can see that, sorry. Okay. I think okay. Right. Now what I can see here is every single column almost, it has a black bar. If I hover a mouse onto it, it shows me that there is some problem going on. There are about 26% records are empty records or blank records. Okay. If Power Query shows a black bar over here, means you have blanks or null values. If it shows red over here, it means you have errors over here. And if it shows this a specific color, whatever the name you give it to, this means everything just fine. Okay, let's have a look into the first row here now. Into the first row, I can see at the bottom over here that every single column is null, null, and null. There is no value into any of the columns over here, right? There are about 20 columns are there, and every single column has a null value. So what I can do is I can just simply go ahead and get rid of this. So how you can remove this row? Home, remove row from the top. How many rows you want to remove? Just one row, and click OK. That row gone. All right. Now, next thing what? Now, the next thing is this IDD. This is a product of what? It's a telecom revenue product. So I need to fill this information right down here. So you just can't come over here and say, start typing, okay, I'm going to type something here. No, it will not allow you. Instead, select the whole column. Just simply click onto the column name. And then what you need to do is, you just simply need to go to transform. And into the transform, here is fill option. When you click the drop down of the fill, you'll find there are two options available only. Either you can fill information downward or upward. So this means you cannot fill information to the right or to the left. You can just fill information either to upward or to downward. Okay, I need to fill this information downward. So I said fill and down. So in just a second, the information is filled here. Okay, that's fine. Let's have a look into now into this one, month. Now here month shows January, but then over here nothing and over here nothing. If you remember in the original file, this January was basically merged into 3 columns. So since it was merged over there, Microsoft Power Query cannot merge anything. So it read that the information was into column number 3, which was column C, right? So it gave the information here now. Now I need to fill it into this column and to this column as well. So this means this actual January, this budget January, and this variance January. But now problem is, I have only fill option available either down or up. So how can I fill onto the right or onto the left? I cannot. Now to fill this information to the right or to the left, what we need to do, we need to transpose this information. We need to transpose our data. So what is into column, it will come into rows, and what is into row, it goes to the column. You see, now these things are into the columns. Actual, budget, variance, January, February, March, these are into the column. It will come into the rows. And what you have here into the rows, it will go into the column. So all you need to do is, you don't need to select any data or anything. Just simply you need to click onto this button, which is called transpose. As soon as you click the transpose, so you'll see now January, February, March, April here, actual, budget, variance over here, and that telecom revenue and other stuff is right up over here, and products are right up over here. Okay, that's fine. Now what we can do, we can fill this information downward here. So select the whole column, go to fill, and click fill downwards. So it filled up here now. Right. The next thing is now actual, then actual, then actual. Okay. If month name is not there, it will be difficult for us to understand that this actual of what month. So what we can do, we can merge both the columns to make it as one column, so that we can understand that, okay, this January actual, this February actual, March actual, and so on and so forth. So to the merge column, rather to merge column in Power Query is pretty simple. You select those columns you want to merge. So I select the first column, hold down the shift key, and select the second column. And then into transform, under the text column, you'll find an option called merge columns. So when I merge the column, I want to leave something in between the value of these two columns, which should tell me that, okay, this much is part of column 1 and this much part of column 2, being some kind of delimiter. So what I do is I click onto merge columns. So now Power Query will ask me, okay, do you want to use any kind of separator? Yes, I want to use some kind of separator. What kind of separator? These are pretty much known separator. I'm going to use a custom separator, and that's called a pipe sign. Pipe sign is in fact on top of backslash key. So I hold down the shift key and I type the pipe sign. And then go ahead and merge these columns. When I click OK, so both columns are merged over here. Okay, up to here is just fine. Now I'm going to retranspose the data so that the data can come back into the state where it was. So transpose data again. So now January actual, January budget, January variance, February actual, and so on. Okay, the next thing now is what? The next thing now is I need to the titles of the columns are over here. It is just like column 1, column 2, column 3. This is not what I need. Now these are the column titles. So I need to bring this column title right at the top over here. Now to bring this column, this value as rather to promote this one as the column title, you can just go ahead and double click on the column title here, and you can type the information here. You can type these names, but this will take me ages. Instead, just go to transform, and right under the table block here, you'll find it shows over here, use first row as header. So I just click use first row as header. So that first row, it became header over here. Simple, click. Okay, fine. Now, as far as these revenue streams are concerned, that is okay. These products are concerned, that is okay. Now, how I want to see information. I want to see total revenue, IDD, how much was actual, how much was budgeted, and how much was variance. Right now, this is a pivoted information. To unpivot this one, I select first column and second column, because this one remain as it is. These are the columns which need to be unpivoted. So select first and the second column, and then into the transform, here is something called unpivot columns. So what columns I want to unpivot? Not these. I want to unpivot rest of the other columns. So click the drop down and say unpivot other columns, not the column that I have selected. I repeat, I don't need to unpivot these. You pivot or unpivot basically is the summarized information, and summarized information is over here. So I click the drop down and I say go ahead and click, unpivot the other column. So just within a fraction of a second, you can see now that the data has been unpivoted. Once it's unpivoted, I can see this column is fine. This column has some problem. This is fine. This is fine. So what's problem going on over here? If I just hover my mouse, it says there are empty or null values are there. Now, where are those empty or null values, and what what kind of those values are there. Let's let's go ahead and scroll a little bit down and see what kind of null values are there. If I just continue scrolling down until I reach to the end of the total the telecom revenue, and then I can see is this was in fact is the total telecom revenue, which was basically the subtotals, right? So these were the subtotals in the original file, and I don't need the subtotals. Subtotal as and when it is required, I can just use one formula. I can create these subtotals. So now to get rid of these subtotals, these are the null values over here. So for the subtotal, of course, there will be no product. So that's why the null product is over here. So if I just get rid of this null, these values will be automatically out. So for this, click the drop down. And over here now, I just need to uncheck null. So click uncheck null out and click OK. So now you can see everything is just fantastic. If you wish, you can split this information into two columns. Let me split this one. Select this column and right click onto it. And let's split the column now. Split the column by what? Split the column by delimiter. And what delimiter we use a pipe sign as a delimiter. And I want to split it at the leftmost delimiter occurrence. If more than one delimiter was used over here, let's say 2 pipe signs are there. So I don't want to split this column into 3. I still want it to be only 2 columns. So just go ahead and click OK. So this will be now into 2 columns separately. Now here, I can just go ahead and type, let's say this is my revenue stream. This one is, let's say, product. This one, yeah. As far as this one is concerned, months. Here, let me call it as, let's say, group or category or whatever. And let me call this one, assume, I call it, let's say, amount. And that's it. Next, if you want to change any kind of data type, so this one has to be text. It's ABC text, text, this one text, and this one is already a whole number. So this is just everything just fine. And now what I can do is I can just go ahead into Home tab and I can close and load this information back to Excel. Okay, so probably let me go back and share my other screen. Okay, so I'm sure now you can see the screen. Yep. Yes. So here is my data now. So it was something like this. And now it is something like this. And as far as original report is concerned, you can have a look. In the original report, nothing changed. It's as it is. Even if I'm the user of this report is still usable. Okay. Now, as far as this data is concerned, you can make use of it for any kind of analysis reports. So if you come across a situation where you have been given a report where pivoted information is there, but that information in fact need to be unpivoted so that you can create your own reports or analysis. So this is how you can do the steps I showed you just now. Okay, let me show you another important scenario. And this, I'm sure most of you must be facing this scenario for sure. Okay. This scenario is transposing the stacked data. Now, sometimes it happens, especially from the credit card companies or some other kind of financial services company. You will get data. That data will be something like this. The whole record, it will be broken down into pieces of information. And that pieces of information you will see, for example, let's say this is the data I got from some credit card company. So what it shows to me here that these are the transactions for, let's say, for the month of whatever. The first piece of information here is assume this one is a date. I'm not sure if you will believe that this is really date or not, but believe me, this is date. So since they have extracted this information from some specialized software, so that specialized software that when exported information, and when we brought this information into Excel, so Excel read that date something like this. So say this is the date, this is the beneficiary name, this one is probably the transaction ID, and this is probably is the amount. Then 2 rows are blank, and then the next record started. Again date, again beneficiary name, Again, let's say this is the transaction ID. And then finally, once again, here is the amount. And this is the type of information which has been given to me. And I have been told, okay, can you go ahead and make use of this information? All right, sure. I'm going to provide all these slides. I'm going to provide all the data file, and I'm going to provide the whole recording of this one. It's nothing to worry about. But this question is keep coming to me that we need the slide. Of course, I'm for sure these slides will be given to you. Don't worry. Okay. So now, if this is the information, I don't think I can make use of this information for any kind of reporting. So what I need is I need to convert this information from this, whatever it is, into using the Power Query, going through for different step. And then finally, this information should be something like this. If it comes like this, yes, I'm comfortable with that. I can make use of this information. But if somebody's giving me data in this way, well, sorry, I can't do anything. The question now is, I'm an accountant. I just can't say to my client or my colleague, oh, sorry, clean this data for me and bring it into this state, and then I'll make use of it. We can't do that, right? So let's go ahead and see if we get the information in this form, so how we can transform from this to this. Okay, let me get my file, and I will show you first data. So here is my file. And let me close this file now because we don't need it. And let me share this file with you guys. Okay, so here is the data now. Right, so if I just zoom a little bit, here is the whole information. And we need to now transform this information to a usable form. So the first thing, let me select the whole information. And by the way, what I can see, the pattern here is what? That after every single record, there are 2 rows blank. So this is a record, 2 rows blank. So 4 rows, it contains different pieces of information, and 2 rows are blank here. So what I do is now, I just go ahead until the end of this data. There are 300-400 records are there. So I just get until the end of the data. I just added 2 more rows over here so that the pattern continues as it is. And then what I do is I convert this data into Excel table, not pivot table, Excel table. Okay. So how to convert into Excel table? Select the data into Home tab, and you'll find over here is Format as Table. Okay. Into the styles, Format as Table. So click Format as Table, and there are quite a few ready-made styles available. It's up to you how you like it, light style, medium style, dark style, whatever you like. Let's say I'm going to select this one. So it says the data range is here, which is selected here already. And my data has the header. Yes, my data has the header called the transactions. And I'm going to click OK. So it is converted now into an Excel table. Okay, now select anywhere into your table here, go to data, and click on to table and range. So what Excel will do, it will take this data and load to straight to Power Query. So I click on to table and range. So you'll see now straight to the Power Query. Okay, you can see Power Query. Yeah, okay. So here is now. And we can see now there are a few blanks or null rows are there. Oops, sorry. I need to share my screen of Power Query. Okay, here it is. So this is now data here. Now here what we need to do is, first of all, I need to know how many pieces of information here, okay, or how many total rows are here. Now for this purpose, what I need to do is I need to assign a serial number to every single row. Because what I need to do is I need to pull this information, date into one column, then beneficiary into second column, then transaction ID into a third column, and then amount into a fourth column. That's what I need to do. And there is no copy paste I can do over here. Even in Excel, you can do this copy paste, maybe 5, 10, 20, 100 records. After that, you'll fed up. That's a non-value added activity you are doing. All right. So what we need to do here is, first of all, we need to assign it a serial number, so that I can tell to my Power Query that next every step that I will define how long you have to continue doing these things. Okay, so what we need to do is, yes, question came just now is, how can we extract data from email bank statement? Well, for that one, we need to write a little bit code in Visual Basic for application. In fact, what we can do is we can write a small macro where, as and when an email comes, it pops into your email account. Then Visual Basic for application can trigger and take the data from the attachment, transform that information, and load straight to to Excel environment. But that will be a bit lengthy process, and for that, for sure, you need to know how to use Visual Basic for application, VBA. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to assign a serial number. So for this purpose, go to add column. Into the add column, you'll find here is an index column is there. So just simply click index column. You'll see straightforward an index column will be added. So index column is saying starting from 0 all the way until the end of the data. So whatever the end of the data it is, it's a quite big file which is there. So it's 473, rather 474 total rows are there into this data. Okay, that's fine. Now the next thing is what? Next thing is we need to find out the pattern into our information. The pattern here is what? Pattern is that record is in fact of total 6 rows. You can see here now. It starts from this, which is probably date. Number 2, which is beneficiary. Number 3, which is transaction ID. Number 4, amount. Number 5, null. Number 6, null. And the same pattern repeated for every single record. In other words, every 6 rows, that's basically contain the information for one record. Right? So what I need to do here is I need to now tell to Power Query that after every 6th, or rather whenever there is a 7th record, rather whenever there is a 7th row started, so treat that 7th row as a new record. How can I do this one? Now for this purpose, what I need to do is I need to assign a modulo value. To assign a modulo value, what you need to do is into add column and go to standard. Into standard, here is the modulo value. So click modulo value. It will ask you, okay, tell me the value that I can use to determine that where the next record is starting. So I said, in fact, is every 6 block of rows, rather a block of 6 rows that contains one record. Okay, and when I click OK, so what it's going to do, it's going to assign a modulo value. It says now from 0 to 5, which basically is total 6 rows. So this is one record. When the next record started from here, again, the same pattern started 0 to 5. And every 5th every 5th modulo number means this was the end of the record. And every 0 modulo number means this is where the new record started. So now things are pretty simple for me. In what way it is simple? Now to bring this information into columns over here, what we need to do. What I need to do is now these modulo numbers, I need to bring them to right at the top over here, which I can say is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0 mean, every 0 mean, that is the date. Every 1 mean, that is the beneficiary name. Every 2 mean, it's the transaction ID. And every 3 mean, it's the amount. Okay, so what we do is now, I select the modulo column and into transform the data, right? I just do one thing over here and I say, go ahead and pivot the column. Now this one is unpivot the information, so I'm going to pivot it. The earlier example I showed you, it was a pivoted information and I unpivoted that. Okay, right. So I'm going to now pivot the information. But for the pivot, all of us know that when you want to pivot the information, so pivot means something between the rows and the columns. It has to be summarized. if months are into the columns, into the rows, and the year are into the column, so I need to summarize something between the rows and the columns, and that has to be some numerical value. I don't have any numerical value over here, and if at all I have a numerical value, which is probably is the amount over here, that's not in a proper form, so I can't pivot it. Okay, so let me give you a trick over here. Select the modulo column and say pivot the column. It will ask you, okay, what column you want me to pivot for the summary. So value column. I said, yes, value column is the transaction column, but I don't want you to aggregate the values. I want you to keep the values as it is. So what it's going to do, when it will pivot this column, so every single value in the transaction column, it will not add up. It will not merge the thing. Rather, it will just print the values underneath the columns here. Okay, go ahead, click OK, and see what happens then. There it is. So modulo 0, modulo 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And in 1, all date, into 0, all date are here. Into 1, all your beneficiaries are here. Into 2, transaction IDs are here. Into 3, amounts are there. Into 4 and 5, it's just because these were null values, so it's reported as null values. Now, since this column and this column number 4 and column number 5, these were the null values, blank rows, I don't need these columns. I can simply right click on them and I can say, go ahead and remove these columns. So both the columns are gone. Now, as far as this column is concerned, index column, I just use the index column so that I can tell to Power Query that how many record or how many pieces of information are there where you have to apply these methods, which I'm telling you. Now, since my purpose is solved already here, I don't need this index column as well, and I can remove it. Okay, now here is a new problem for us. The new problem is, this is the date. This is our beneficiary. Here is the transaction ID, and here is the amount. If you look closely onto this information, it's just like a letter, right? So this doesn't make any sense. The date is in this row, beneficiary in this row, and rest of the information into different rows. So somehow all these things, it should be into a single row. Now, how we can make this possible? Okay, now what I can think of is there any way that I can copy this information from here to here? Yes, I can do that. And if you remember, we had an option here in the transform, and that was called the fill option. So you can fill it upward or downward. But when you will fill this information upward or downward, there will be one problem. And what that problem would be? The problem will be when you will copy this information or this this beneficiary, it will be copied from here all the way up to here. But actually it should stop over here. Well, it will not stop. Why? Because these are the blank values here. So this will be in fact a problem, but nothing to worry about. I will show you a workaround solution of this. Let's do one thing first. I want all the values should be copied upward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select first column, second, third column, and I go to transform. I can fill upward. So city of Vancouver. Just a second. I made some kind of mistakes, look like. Yeah. Okay. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. So fill upward. Yep. Okay. Earlier I filled downward, sorry. Okay. So now I can see now here, city of Vancouver is up over here, and this transaction is up over here, but this transaction doesn't belong to Errol's restaurant. Errol's restaurant, in fact, transaction was this one, but nothing to worry about. Why? Because now what I can do is I can just simply pull these records, this record with the date, and this record contains all the correct information. So what I can do is in this column over here, I can simply say all these null values, throw them out. So select and uncheck null values and click OK. And now your data is neat and clean. As for this one is concerned, it's not ABC or it's not number. This one is probably the date. We can just go ahead and change it to date. So it is converted to date. And I can write over here now. This one is, let's say, date. This one is, let's call it as party, let's say. This one is probably some reference. And as far as this one is concerned, let's call this one as amount. And that's it. All our columns are okay. We don't have any errors. We don't have any blanks, nothing. And I can just go ahead into Home tab, and I can now close and load this information back to Excel. Sorry, I need to reshare my screen. So here it is now. So this is what it was, and now this is what it is. And if I'm getting this data every now and then, next time what I need to do is I just need to append the new or the upcoming data just underneath over here. All right, just append the data underneath here and click this refresh button. And that's it. You'll find that this data will be automatically updated. So in Power Query, you have to define query just once only. And next, every single time, it's a matter of refreshing until, or unless and until rather, there is some significant or some structural changes there in your data or in the way data has been given to you, or there is some source changes there. Yes, then you need to revise your query. Otherwise, it's a matter of just simply refreshing the query. So this was another problem that most of the accountants they face when they get data from banks, from financial institutions, or from specialized software where you face a problem and the data is into a stack form is there. So this is how you can deal with the situation. Let me give you one last example. I try to give you a variety of examples. I discussed with you how to get data from a website. I showed you data, an example where the data was in a pivot form, how to unpivot. I showed you data now where it was in stack form. Let's see one last example, and that is the text example. And what is the text example? I'm going to open a file for you, and especially if you are dealing with some company who in fact is getting some data from some payroll systems. I have seen many of my clients, in fact, but they share their payroll data on monthly basis or fortnight basis. So the data they shared with me is in the text format, something like this one. And I need to grab this data to update their information in our analytics systems or into our business intelligence system. So that becomes a bit challenging. For example, this is just a timesheet of some company's employees. I'll just give you only one page over here. But original file, this one, it contains almost, I think, around 1,100 pages are there. Yeah. Okay. Now, as far as the data is concerned, this part of the information is pretty fine. No problem. But the only problem which you can see here is that the name of worker is somewhere in between. And when I load this information to Excel or to any other business intelligence application, there every single record I need to mention what's the name of the worker. Now, how you can bring worker name from here into a separate column here? That's the challenge. Once again, it's a matter of 3-4 pages. You can simply copy paste this information and then copy this piece of the information and then paste this information to a separate column. You are happy. Okay, I agree with you. 1,100 pages. Not an easy job. So how to deal with this kind of scenario? Okay, let me show you how to deal with this kind of scenario. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this one and let me go to Excel environment. And what I do is here, in fact, let me open a new new file. Okay, so here is my new file. And as far as the other file is concerned, let me close this one. I don't need this one. Yep. Okay, so in this now file here, I'm going to import that txt file, which was text file. So what I do is go to data, once again. And this time we'll get data from a TXT or CSV file. This option I'm going to use. So click TXT or CSV. And my file, in fact, is somewhere on my desktop and into the Marathon Power Query. And this is that file, right? And I select the file, and click import. Okay, so what it's going to do, it's going to show me the snapshot of the file, the data, the way the data is there into the file. So it shows me the data is something like this. Well, there are quite a few problems are there. So we just can't load this data to Excel. So I need to transform this information. So I click on to transform the data. So it opens now a new environment, once again, Power Query. And I'm going to do quite a few things here now. Right. So here now, row number 1 through row number 4. This is probably was the report titles or the page titles, which I don't need. My data starts right from this place, right? From row number 5. So first 4 rows I need to get rid of. So into home, remove rows from top. And from top, we need to remove 4 rows and click OK. So 4 rows gone. Next thing. What I need is next now, I need to promote this row as header, because there are no header right now. So into home, over here is use first row as header, or into transform, use first row as header. So it's available in both tabs here, in the home and into the transform. So use the first row as the header. So first row is the header now. Okay, very good. Up to here is just fine. And let me see now into miscellaneous hours and expenses. Do I have anything? So in my case, in fact, everything is just null or 0. And here in the expenses, everything is null or 0. So I can just go ahead straightforward, remove these 2 columns. I don't need these 2 columns. Okay. Now the problem is how you can split this column into 2 columns. If this name was just beside the time, I can split the columns that I showed you earlier. But here problem is what now? 2 different type of data is into a single column here. I have the text over here and I have the time over here. Rather 3, 4 types of data is there. I have the text over here, I have the time here, I have the whole number over here, and a little bit more information somewhere down. Okay. What we can do is we can pull this information into a separate column. So to bring it to a separate column, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new column, and I'm going to add a custom column. And into the custom column, just want to give you a little bit idea that in case you need to write formula, you can write formula as well. Pretty simple formulas. So I'm going to pull the time from here. Time from what? I'm going to pull time from this column, and name of the column is out. So the formula available in Microsoft Power Query, its name is like this one, time dot from. Here's the formula. Time dot from. Simply click time dot from, open parenthesis, and it's asked only one argument that give me the value or the name of the column from where I can pull the time. So in my case, it should pull the time from a column called out. And all these columns, their names are available here as well. Available columns, right? So I just say, go ahead and pull the time from column called out and close the parenthesis. Once you close the parenthesis, if everything's okay, so Power Query will tell you, okay, here it is, everything just fine. I did not find any error. But if there is some problem, so it will show you a red mark over here, and it will show you what kind of error is there. Okay, another important information. What sort of this syntax is here? Well, this one is M language. Microsoft Power Query, it's all functions, it's all routines written in M language. Remember this. We don't need to learn M language, in fact, all right? But in case any one of you, we want to, let's say, be very professional into Power Query, so you have to learn then M language. That's what you will use to write quite complex kind of routines. Okay, anyway, so that's what I need only. So as soon as I click OK, So system will add a new column, and the time which was here, it came over here. But there's one problem. And the problem is error. And why this error? If I click on in this blank space, not onto the error, onto this blank space, so it shows me what it says, that there is some value written. It's called Fahad Rada, which is over here, and I cannot convert this Fahad Rada into time. True. It's a text value, and text cannot be converted into time. Okay. Now, the problem is what? The problem is if I just go ahead and remove these errors, so what will happen? This name will be out. And that's not what I want. I need this name into a separate column. So what I need to do here is now I need to tell to the Power Query that use the formula I gave you earlier. Try that formula. But in case that that formula is returning an error, that just don't give me error. Rather, give me null value. Don't give me anything here. Because error, I can't do anything with that. But if it is null value, I can do something with that. So what I do is now I need to revise this step. I need to edit this step. To edit the step into the applied steps over here, this is what I did just now, which is added a custom column. And any step which can be edited, you'll find a gear button just beside that here onto the right side. So I can click this gear button. It will take me back to the same place where I wrote my formula. Now here what I can say to my formula is that try. There is a method over here called try. Sorry, not here. Right in the beginning here. So I would say try this method. Try what? Try to convert everything into time. And if you cannot try, if you cannot be successful for whatever reason, you can't get the, let's say, the time, and it returns you error. So try this method. Otherwise, do one thing. Just give me null value, and that's it. Okay. Try this method. And if this method has an error, otherwise, then do me a favor, just give me null value. Syntax says everything just fine, and click OK. So now what happened? That error was, in fact, converted into null. Okay, this will make my life easier now. Now what I can do is, I can use some if statement just like in Excel you use. If this condition is true, then this result, and if condition not true, then something else. So similar kind of thing available in Power Query as well. Okay, so what we can do here is now I can use my if statement here to grab this name. Now let me show you how it works. So I'm going to add another custom column. And in this custom column, I'm going to call it, let's say name or employee name. All right. So what I'm going to say is, I'm going to say if what? If this specific column, which column? Name of the column is custom. So which is over here. If this one is equal to null, then if that is equal to null, then what to do? Then give me the value from the column called out. All right. If this one is null, if it is null means what? That we have a name which cannot be converted into time. So if this one is null, then give me this value, right? So if that is null, then what you need to do is you need to give me value from what column? The name of the column is out, right? Else. And if it is not null, then what to do? Then don't give me anything because I already have the time. Then null. Okay, I hope you got it. That if the custom column is equal to null, then give me the value from the out. And if this one is not null, then in the new column, which is going to be employee ID or employee name, just return me null. And that's it. And go ahead and click OK. So here it is now. This was null. It gave me employee name. This was not null. It gave me null because I don't need to repeat the time over here. If I repeat name and the time over here again, then what's the difference between this column and this column? Okay, now things are easy. I can fill this value now down. So select the column, go to transform, fill, and fill down. So that goes here now. And now what we can do is we can sort the information here, and we can just get rid of unwanted information. For example, this contingent worker, this was basically the title of the employee. I already got the employee name over here, so I can get rid of this contingent worker. At the same time, I can get rid of this number of record. So these two values that need to be out from here. All right. So just go ahead into this column, and I said, I don't need blanks. I don't need contingent worker. I don't need number of records. Okay. So these are the three things have to be out, and click OK. So rest everything is just fine. Now this is the date, which is not properly formatted as a date. I could just change this one to saying, no, this has to be proper date. Where is the date? This one, in fact, has to be time. So it's up to you. You can just go ahead and format it as a time. This one is, in fact, is decimal value. That's fine. As far as this time is concerned, it's repeating. I have the time here and I have the time here. But this time I just got only so that I can pull the employee name. So I can just get rid of this column. No need of this column. And as this column is concerned, if you want, you can bring it right here at the beginning. It's a matter of just drag and bring wherever you want this one. I want it at the beginning over here. So this is how it would look like. That's it. Everything just look fine now. And you can go home and load this information back to Excel. So you can imagine now, if I have 1100, even 11 million pages, I'm not worried because I have defined the query now. Every single time when my clients send me this report, I just go to this query. I said, okay, this report is available into ABC location. Just go ahead and refresh it. And that's it. So this was the whole thing that I wanted you guys to think of using this kind of techniques of dealing with the data and looking into the ways of serving better to your clients. So that's all for today. Do you have any question? Please go ahead, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So let me have a look into, well, quite a few questions here already. Okay, somebody asked a question that this Power Query, okay, what technology was used to develop this? Okay, the technology which was used to develop Microsoft Power Query, it's called SSAS, SQL Server Analysis Services. Before 2010 version of Microsoft Excel, this was in fact in the hands of most of the time in the hands of IT support guys. So from 2010, Microsoft, they realized that since we need to now reduce the dependency on the support services so that employers, they can save quite a bit of amount. I mean, if you have, let's say, a support guy who's, let's say, he costing you about $60,000 to $90,000, and every month he has to just, let's say, deal with 6 to 10 different queries. So that doesn't make any sense. But what information he has created, that has to be used by somebody to produce some kind of analysis report to support, in fact, a business decision. So this person in between, what was his role? Right? So considering that, Microsoft, what they did, they modify, in fact, Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Power BI, and they use SSAS systems or technology, and they created this Microsoft Power Query, Power Pivot into Excel. Okay, another question here is, the question here is there any limit of Microsoft Power Query to digest the information? No, Microsoft Power Query has no limit. Your Excel sheet, if in case now, this is the Excel sheet right now in front of me. If I just hold down Control and press the down arrow, so its maximum capacity is 1048576 rows. But as far as Microsoft Power Query is concerned, it don't have any limit. You can bring X number of rows or any size of data or any volume of data, it will digest that information. So it don't have any limit of rows or columns. Another question here is, this question pretty much I've already answered. Okay, another question here is, it's a good question, in fact. The question is about Microsoft Power Query. While you are working in Power Query, why we cannot go back and work into Microsoft Excel sheet? Okay, good question. Well, Power Query screen when it opens onto onto Microsoft Excel. So it called a model screen. A model screen means what? Unless you complete the process into that screen, it will not allow you to go back to Excel. Why is that so? Because the data which you will bring into Microsoft Excel, it has to pass through Microsoft Power Query environment. So unless you complete the processing into Microsoft Power Query environment, it will not allow you to work into Excel environment. To work into Excel environment, you have to close. By force, you have to close Power Query environment, and then you can work in Microsoft Excel. So rest of the questions, I will try to address these questions and send you a response in the email. But pretty much the rest of the questions, in fact, are either I have already answered or it's it's pretty much standard questions. In fact, is about the slides and about this presentation, about the data files, about the recordings. All this stuff will be provided to you. Don't worry. So that's it from my side. Anybody has any other question, please go ahead and type your question to chat.
Okay, thank you very much, Keza.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for your presence. So thank you very much, Myra. And yeah, that's true. Excel definitely requires quite a bit of logical arguments, and it really need quite a bit of practice. But I can guarantee if you know these tools, which I'm going to tell you today, which I'm done, the tool which we will see tomorrow, and the tool we will see day after tomorrow. If you just be good into these tools, it's my guarantee, next 15 years, you don't need to upgrade yourself. All right. So thank you very much. So see you tomorrow. Take care and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.